taken by Lindsay Hill herself, the morning after she claims she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world. Doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on.
My past, I've been involved with other baseball players. That was my world at the time. And it was a funny way, I had already dated baseball players, and it was a funny, sarcastic way to say, oh, here's the next one.
We're doing a bit of a switch up here. I'm going to go ahead and get this video out today, and then there's going to be 2 videos out tomorrow that are going to be kind of the follow-ups to what happened with the 2 journalists, the one that was killed in New York, a bit of an addendum, and of course the other that was killed in Philadelphia. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Of course, we're going to be talking about Trevor Bauer, but I want to go ahead and kind of start this video out by giving you guys a bit of a heads up on how things are going to go on the weekend. And hopefully Sunday, I should have a video out, at least the first part of my whole TradCon marriage series. So make sure you guys stick around for that as well. Normally, I don't like starting out videos with updates, but I feel like you guys need a bit of a heads up before we actually get started. Now, that rather being said, let's go ahead and talk about this Trevor Bauer situation, because once again, we got another situation where, let's just say that MeToo once again got debunked. Now, guys, I played some small clips for you guys at the very beginning. We're going to look at this entire situation, but there's also a lot of things that a lot of people, a lot of commentators may have actually gotten wrong here. So for that very reason, I'm going to be leaving this video from Baseball Doesn't Exist and this other video from iTalk Studios in the description box. I highly advise you guys go check out those channels, especially if you're into sports, especially baseball. They do a very good job on actually giving us some reports. So, the situation with Trevor Bauer started back in 2021. He was accused practically of sexual assault, and the girl, of course, she put a restraining order on him. And the LA Dodgers franchise, they chose to basically distance themselves away from Trevor Bauer. Now, I was listening to Jason Whitlock talk about this the other day, but there's something very important that he actually left out, and this is what he left out. The Dodger teammates did not want to keep Trevor Bauer on the team. Even though Bauer is vindicated, there's a lot of other things, a lot of other reasons why it is that people probably did not want him to come back to the organization. Now, this video right here is to talk about how it was that the Me Too movement, of course, once again took a great big giant L, because it's pretty obvious when you actually look at the situation that the girl involved, Lindsay Hill, was quite frankly just looking for some money. She already had a history of dating baseball players before. One such name is Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, a lot of people are having a hard time with people who are defending Trevor Bauer, and I understand the reasons why, but let's just go ahead and be honest. This guy didn't really do anything wrong except get involved with a girl who ultimately, at the end of the day, had a reputation for screwing around with baseball players, and of course, as a result of this is where it's going to happen. This is the way I equate this situation. As you guys know, most of you know I'm a veteran, I'm a prior service Marine. I don't like to tell that many stories, but I can tell you this story here. It's not uncommon for girls to be around the base who have a thing for devil dogs, men in uniform. It's not uncommon for girls to have a thing for Army boys. You see them all the time. They hang out by the base. They live in town. They only want to hook up with somebody who was in the military. Some girls have got a thing for baseball players. I'm not here to rag on girls or whatnot. I'm here just to rag on this one particular one, because if you actually know Trevor Bauer, if you actually know the things that, of course, he's done on the field. And by the way, I don't dislike Trevor Bauer at all. As a matter of fact, his Twitter feed is absolutely hilarious. This is the same guy who wrote out on the pitch on the mound, BD911. I'll let you guys kind of figure that out as a bit of a troll. He also got upset and threw a baseball out in the center field from the pitcher's mound while Terry Francona, one of the game's classiest managers, came out to pull him out of the game. This is also the same guy who got his hand cut messing around with drones after the Cleveland Indians, at the time Cleveland Indians, I still call them the Indians organization, had told him not to mess around with these drones in the middle of a pennant race. So there's a lot of things here that, quite frankly, you can look into on Trevor Bauer that will probably give you a negative opinion of him. But then again, there's also things that might lead you to have a positive opinion. He's also the same guy who, for the most part, exposed the whole spider tack controversy, which is one of the main reasons why I'm leaving the Baseball Doesn't Exist video. The Baseball Doesn't Exist video is more looking at his past and some of his antics, and the iTalk Studios video is more about explaining how it is that he was jilted, which, by the way, for the most part, Trevor Bauer is jilted. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a guy who got suspended from Major League Baseball for 2 years. He's been vindicated. He needs to go back and play. I actually agree with that. But the reason why I don't feel so bad for him is because Trevor Bauer, like a moron, got a hold of a girl who had a reputation for going after baseball players. And number two, let's be honest, the guy is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And if he does come back to Major League Baseball, somebody is going to sign him. He's going to be paid pretty handsomely. With that right there out of the way, though, let's go ahead and get to the first half of this clip because Bauer obviously did, in fact, respond to this. Let's go ahead and get to this. I'm going to come back on the other end. We're going to play the other half, and I'm going to come back and give some more commentary. And then we're going to talk about the girl herself and why it is that you probably should have seen this coming.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how is she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said. Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you 50,000, Lindsey replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsey Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. This video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world.
Right off the bat, it looks like she's already going to be trying to go after somebody's cash. I mentioned earlier that she got involved with Fernando Tatis Jr. at one point in time. This right here seems to be like a girl who, quite frankly, is looking for money, fame, everything. She wants Alex Stein. I still can't figure out why in the world he interviewed her. Maybe he did it to try to make her look bad. I don't know. I looked at parts of it and I was like, dude, you just should not have interviewed this girl at all, because you just gave this girl the moral high ground to say that it was all jokes, when in reality, when you do this in text message, like you send these types of text messages saying, next victim, Dodger starting pitcher, and of course, you guys also saw the video too. She didn't look harmed or anything. She basically filmed herself the morning after being, after some hanky-panky, and there's no marks on her or anything. There's none. So basically what this girl was accusing him of was just a good old-fashioned bunch of BS. Now, I talked about why it's another L for MeToo. And let me go ahead and say this to the girls in the MeToo movement. If you get something wrong, or it comes to find out that the person is, the individual is being labeled as guilty before being proven innocent, and then we find out later on that person is innocent, it gives absolutely no credibility to your movement, and it actually hurts those who do have legitimate complaints or legitimate incidents did in fact occur. But I've also said this prior too, and I'll continue to say this: if something has happened to you as far as assault is concerned, you need to go ahead and come on out and tell people what the hell happened. Even if your memory is a little bit fuzzy, you do need to go ahead and come on out with it, because if you come out with it right away, it's much, much more believable and you might can get some justice. Obviously, in this situation here, Trevor Bauer didn't really do anything wrong, except really for the most part just be stupid. But I mentioned earlier about Trevor Bauer's teammates basically saying, we don't want him play here anymore. Well, let me go ahead and break that down here really, really quick, and then we'll get on to the other half of this. Here's the deal. The Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team is being ran and owned right now by Stan Castens and Magic Johnson. They probably got a hold of this and said, you know what, this guy's already been in trouble at other places. We signed him to this massive contract thinking he was going to be a boost to us. We probably should just try to distance ourselves from it, because we don't need another incident, which is kind of funny because earlier this year they had an incident where they decided to piss off the entire, let's just say that they decided to piss off the whole of Southern California, Catholics, of course, when they brought in a bunch of drag nuns who, quite frankly, worship the devil. they decide to do that and honor these people, these sisters of perpetual, whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is this right here. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on with this organization. Let's go ahead and roll the rest of this, and I'll come back on the other end and dive into this a little bit further, and then we'll talk about the girl. But still, the fact of the matter is that Trevor Bauer, he got falsely accused, and he's being vindicated.
15th, and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsay Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
Oh, the text messages, the video, the fact that he's going to lose money, he's going to lose contract opportunities, which don't worry, at some point in time, as I mentioned before, he will be able to sign with the team at a later date. It damages his reputation a lot more. Now, Bauer himself probably doesn't really care. He's never been the type of guy that really cares what people think. But still, though, it kind of goes back to what Rush Limbaugh said about the whole Michael Jackson situation, or what's been going on with the Russell Brand situation. Once they get the headline out there, once they get the actual accusation out there, you're already guilty in the eyes of the public. Now, the thing about Trevor Bauer is this here, because of his reputation as a ball player, because of the weirdness about him, and you'll see it in the Baseball Doesn't Exist video, because of his reputation with other ball players coming up through the farm system, which if you watch that video and you see what happened to him in college, you'll probably think he was bullied, but you'll also think that he probably brought some of it on himself. I'm not trying to joke on him or anything like that. I'm just simply saying what it is. And many people have tried to make comparisons to the Kobe Bryant situation, which I'll dive into in a second. But of the stories that I've got listed next year to do a deep dive on, that's actually one of the ones we're going to cover, because once again, we got to use as an example of the time when the media decided to, I don't know, maybe not label somebody guilty of something when in reality they had already admitted their guilt. We'll talk about that at a later date. Not saying to rag on Kobe or anything. Love Kobe, and he did, of course, recover from this, but you can't excuse the action. The thing is this right here. In the case of Trevor Bauer's situation, everybody went ahead and labeled him as guilty before they even bothered to listen to his side of the story. Now, why is this the case? Well, mostly due to the antics, mostly due to the things that occurred in his past as a ball player, the attitude, all that crap. And automatically, to go on top of this, a lot of people already don't like Trevor Bauer to begin with, so they went ahead and decided to pile on to Trevor Bauer and say he obviously did it. And of course, when he eventually gets vindicated, you're also going to hear people say, well, what about all the incidents not reported? Well, what if they're all a bunch of BS? It's possible that it could be, or at least exaggerated. I mean, you just had a girl go out there who, I need to go ahead and remind you now, has got a reputation of having this thing for baseball players where she tries to get a hold of them And I guess Trevor Bauer was the crown jewel of the men that she wanted to get a hold of to try to get for money. It's basically extortion. Speaking of that girl, let me go ahead and roll the next 2 minutes here, because there is something very important at the very end that a lot of people are automatically going to use to tag Trevor Bauer to say that he is an abuser, when in reality, there's probably a logical explanation for this. I'm going to go ahead and roll these next 2 minutes here. I'll be back on the other side. And then another little piece of information, another little video got dropped as well, and we'll go ahead and discuss that too. Let's go ahead and roll this.
Rogers, that's text 1. That's kind of bad, Lindsay. What is, I mean, I know you're saying this is no context, and I'm sure you're being sarcastic. I'm guessing. I mean, well, but what the hell does that mean? Next victim.
Yeah, and this is, exactly what Trevor wanted to do, was random pick 3 or 4 texts and weave it into a narrative where I just look horrible. But so, when I explained that and in my deposition and different things, I'm like you. I like to joke. I'm very sarcastic, sometimes inappropriate. Anyone who knows me will know that. And these are private, text messages with my friends. And agreed, victim is not the word there. But what I, my past, I've been involved with other baseball players. That was my world at the time. And it was a funny way, I had already dated baseball players, and it was a funny, sarcastic way to say, oh, here's the next one, that I'm going to try to get attention from. And it was a lot of ego and, attention-seeking behavior, which is what I can own. And what he can't do is own any part. But I can totally own the attention-seeking behavior. But these texts, in a grand scheme, don't address what happened at all. This was before any of, our interactions or anything like that.
So what happened though? So in the next text he says, "I need daddy to choke me out." Then the third one, it says, "Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million." And I have to be honest, when I read these text messages, I get a little sexually aroused. But I think that's just because I'm insane. But I mean, what happened? He choked you out. He beat you up, because in that one video you were smiling after it. So and you sent me that one phone call that we can't play. He did admit that he hit you in the phone call. He said
people
that.
Saying that he admitted to hitting you. Okay, that's possible. But then again, at the same time, and I want to be very, very brief on this, because this is not a channel that's designed to be sexually charged or anything. I want to ask, just ask the question: how many people out there have like their sex a little bit rough? How many people like to get hit or slapped or have their hair pulled or clawed or whatever? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who do that. I'm not somebody who's clean of all that stuff either. If the girl wants it rough, more than likely the way I perform, I'm probably going to be a little bit rougher than normal. If the girl wants me to slow down, I'm going to want to slow down. A lot of this is dependent based on her actions at the time, how she's actually receiving it. She could very, very well be a girl who does, in fact, love rough sex. Okay, so that right there could have very, very well been argued away from in court. You got to understand something right quick. In a civil case, in most... Well, I think it's a civil case, preponderance of evidence. And, of course, in a law case, it's actually the burden of proof, and you also something else, too. Reasonable doubt can be put inside the jury's mind. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people believe that defense attorneys have got a lot easier than prosecutors, because the only thing that defense attorneys got to do is just put a little bit of doubt in the jury's mind. And, of course, you can't convict if that right there is the case. This one, of course, was a civil case. And, of course, she decided to try to get the restraining order fully extended. And I'll talk a little bit more about in the next segment. So what you're probably going to take out of that is the very, very end with the text messages. And, of course, you're going to hear her say I was being sarcastic, I was playing around, I was joking. There's a problem with this. If I am to sit here and have a conversation with any one of my subscribers and I say something, that might be a little bit risque, like next victim, whatnot, that person could look at me and say, that's no big deal. He's just joking. He's just messing around. The thing about text messages this here, and I understand that you've got emojis, you can always type in LOL, whatnot. The problem with text messages is that it's actually text. You're not hearing the person's emotion. You're not actually hearing what they have to say. You're not picking up a tone of voice. You're not doing any of that. And given the fact that the girl had a reputation, who, by the way, she even admitted to trying to go out with baseball players and baseball players alone, it's pretty obvious that this right here was probably a chick of very, very low character. Of course, there was another video that was released to kind of clamp down on this. Here you go.
Me too. And actually, fuck you. You need to go. You need to go. Baby.
Let's go get the sheriff.
No, actually, I'm sorry. It was in.
Hey, don't do that. Metro's coming.
Well, I want to make sure that nothing happens.
You can go. No, you can go. You can go. No, actually, yes, ma'am. Yes, don't come with me. No, I will.
She's drunk already.
No, ma'am. You can work it up. No, ma'am.
Let's go. was like, on
Hey,
Especially one more fight. Hey, give me your shot.
you guys, but I've been in the club, I've been in the bar, and let me go ahead and say this. I understand it's a concert, but if a group of girls walk up on you, and if you have not done, I don't care what you are, if you haven't done anything and a group of girls are asking you to leave, you need to leave anyway. Don't try to negotiate or anything. Just say, look, I don't know what the problem is. We'll walk away. The reason why is because sometimes they can get that way. Of course, they had legitimate reason this time to get this particular chick to leave. And of course, you're probably thinking to yourself, maybe this is nothing. Maybe she's just drunk, this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. It doesn't exactly help this particular person out in her case, who, by the way, would file a restraining order on Trevor and then would try to extend that restraining order, which I'll go ahead and explain the deal with restraining orders right now. Restraining orders, I'm not against restraining orders being put on people. However, you need to use it the right way. There needs to be an actual credible threat. Okay, this doesn't seem like a credible threat here. Trevor was probably more than happy to get this girl out of his house. He was probably saying, you know what, I obviously can't wife this girl, which, by the way, you shouldn't be trying to wife a girl that you sleep with on the first date anyways. It's a bad idea. It's almost like that episode of King of the Hill where old boy told Hank, no pimp should ever marry any one of his hoes. Fact of the matter is, you shouldn't be trying to wife up the girl that you do on the first night anyways. God knows what the hell could happen as a result of this. About those restraining orders, I want to say something real quick about restraining orders. And like I said, I understand why restraining orders are put on, but I want you to understand something really quick. In certain states, if you put a restraining order on a guy, and let's just say that guy has left you alone for a year, they can get that restraining order put back on. What if the guy's got found religion? What if the guy has gotten married? What if the guy's found a new girlfriend? He's not even thinking about the girl. And granted, it's a regrettable incident. Whatever happened was obviously a regrettable incident. He hit her. Maybe something happened. Maybe it's a lot more gray than we think of. Things are not always black and white. And of course, the more and more you keep putting it on that person, the more and more it's going to ruin his life. The more and more it's going to cost him opportunities at work, even though he's moved on from you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that women should not put one on somebody who's, especially if they're violent or what. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you need to really and truly think awfully good and long. You think very, very hard about what it is you're doing, because after a while, men do in fact mature. They do eventually move on. I mean, what if this guy needs to buy a firearm? He can't do it because of a restraining order from 3 years ago, even though he's not with that girl anymore. He's not touching her anymore. Remove it. He's not coming after you. He's not touching you. He's trying to protect his own family. That way, there's also another problem with this. And it's also another reason why it is the MeToo movement really and truly screwed themselves over. And I mean, it's not just screwing themselves over. Nowadays, when somebody levies an accusation on somebody, nobody believes it anyways. I was listening to a video the other day from Patient Zena. She's also another good channel where she was trying to compare the whole Russell Brand thing. Conspiracy theorists versus those who actually have legitimate complaints. Something legitimately happened. Fact of the matter is that Me Too started going after people who they had maybe said something to a girl in the office from 30 years prior, and they're just now coming out and saying something about it. If you need to complain, you need to go ahead and launch that complaint now. Now girls have got just about anything, and they can use anything in the world to say Me Too, or he actually assaulted me or whatnot, even though what may have happened was he may have just accidentally bumped into you. You two don't even know one another. And now that you've got carte blanche to accuse him of sexual assault, and when he probably more than likely didn't do anything at all. People are automatically going to just dismiss the accusation as not being credible, especially seeing how the goal was to obviously defame somebody in the media, so that way public opinion will eventually go on against that person. However, in the case of Trevor Bauer, let's just go ahead and be honest. They were going to go after him anyways because of his public persona. Also, not to mention the fact that he's also on the right side of politics. He's a conservative and a big-time Trump guy. But then if you actually factor in the fact that his previous reputation, it's pretty obvious it was a bit of a mark. Fact of the matter is that Trevor Bauer was done wrong in this situation. He was basically suspended from Major League Baseball for 2 years, and they removed half of that suspension, and he's been playing in Japan for the past year. But still, at the same time, though, that does not mean that Trevor Bauer does not deserve a job. He was obviously done wrong, and hopefully Major League Baseball will, in fact, reinstate him. The other day, Stephen A. Smith was on with Rob Manfred, and this news came out about Trevor Bauer being fully vindicated, and Stephen A. Smith is asking him about black players in Major League Baseball. Why can't we get more black players? Here's an idea. When you find a bunch of players of a certain race or whatnot who play baseball, if they're good enough to get through the draft process or whatnot, then guess what? They earned their way into baseball. We're getting sick and tired of this whole diversity crap. I wish these race baiters would just shut the hell up. with that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I'm going to try to get a third video out today, which is going to be on the whole liberal journalism crap, but I'll probably, I may move that here tomorrow because there's been another development that has occurred this afternoon. Speaking of Philadelphia, meatball, all that crap there. A certain lefty has absolutely lost their mind, and that video right here will be out tomorrow. This is, of course, in response to what was going on with all the race baiting and all the Aladdins and all that crap there. And I'll be explaining that tomorrow, so make sure you guys stick around for that, and I will see you guys later.